Okay, so we ended last week with this old man with this elegant blue scale robe, just kind of freezing time on the ship and coming up to each of the monsters that were there. He just kind of touched them and they dissipated. He breathed life back into the baby dragon. Tarask, he helped your soul find its way back home to your body. And then once everything is taken care of, time starts back up again. And everything starts to move, and even it seems like the soul storm above you starts to churn a little bit faster now. And Korak, you had just pulled yourself up off the side of the ship, I think, or maybe you hadn't yet. No, you did. I did. Yeah, you pulled yourself up, and he's basically just standing there in the midst of all of you. Some of the guards and crew members are standing there, their mouths agape, just like they have no idea. Like, there's just too much to take in for them right now, so they're just kind of standing there in awe, shock and awe. Tarask, you find yourself able to move again, but I want you to roll just 1d6 for me, and then that's going to be how much HP you have right now.
Three.
All right, so you have 3 hit points, and when you come to, what's the first thing Tarask does?
I'm sorry. It was just the D6, right? Like not plus endurance or anything like that.
Right, just 1d6. Yep.
Okay. Yep. 3. And what does Tarask do?
Yeah, you're awake after all this.
Well, I picture him kind of in a cold sweat, first of all, and he's pretty disoriented and confused about where and when he is. And I think he just kind of like sits up and like looks around the room and is trying to orientate himself for a fair amount of time. And if he doesn't hear any bustle, he'll kind of slowly kind of start picking himself up and kind of putting on his regular clothes and kind of like extra touching things, like running his hands over the desk, like this is real, this is the real world. This is actually happening, and like he feels the back of his own hand and reminds himself for what reality feels like versus that other existence.
In your disoriented state, you almost trip over the little blue lump that's on the floor. The dragon is just barely conscious, but it is alive and breathing. Much to your surprise, the last you saw it was you thought it was dead. Basically, judging from the amount of pain and damage you were taking from those, the energy from the spirits shearing you, a little creature like that, you only imagined it. You're surprised that it's alive. And it kind of looks up to you, and it's shaking a little bit.
He looks down. Unbelievable. Can't believe you made it out of that.
It scooches over a little closer to you and kind of rubs its head up against your ankle.
I think I bend over and I pick it up if he lets me.
Oh, he does.
And I kind of put it over on top of I imagine I have like some shelves for my clothing. And as I kind of start to get dressed, I put him at like head level on the top of it. And kind of looking at him, and I'm kind of looking him over pretty carefully, seeing if he's burnt, wounded. It was pretty crazy in there.
Yeah, when you take stock of yourself and of him or her, I kind of have been referring to it as either or, because truth be told, you're not sure if it's a boy or girl. I don't think if we've established that. I don't remember. Have we? Is the dragon a boy or a girl?
No. I wouldn't know how to find that out. So.
I thought we had said it was. I thought we had said it was. I thought we had said it was male.
Well, at any rate, sure. Well, you know what?
No, a male works, sure.
1 through 3, it's a male. 4, 5, 6, it's a female. Oh, there it goes. We're not gonna keep that one. 6. So it's a girl. It's a girl.
Okay.
But you might not necessarily know that yet. So, anyways, yeah, as you take stock of yourself and it, you notice that your bodies are completely fine. You seem no worse for the wear physically, but you're both just completely drained of all energy, all life. You feel like a spiritual vacuum got stuck down your throat and just sucked every ounce of energy you had out. So then we go back up to the deck of the ship while Tarask is getting dressed and figuring out what reality is again. I want to shift over to Daniel and Remshel. They are the first. Well, you guys notice, you three, Dane, Ishtar, and Korek. You notice that they both take a knee basically before this old man, and they seem very reverent of him. And the old man will turn around and look at Ishtar, and he says, "Are you going to be okay? You took quite a blow there."
He starts it, pulls out his little flask, takes a drink. Yeah, I'll be good.
He says, "Oh, I'd almost forgotten how resilient you humans are."
Let me see if I'm injured. I'm a little injured, not like horribly, but
yeah.
He takes the drink of the flask and he's like, "I'll be fine."
He says, "I had almost forgotten how resilient you humans are." And he turns to Dane, and he kind of just takes stock of you. He looks you up and down and nods, and then he looks over to Korek and he says, "An orc."
Yes.
"I've not seen one of your kind in a few millennia."
That perks me up. I hear that. I perk and I say, millennia.
Ishtar just goes, "You're old."
He looks back to you and he says, "Yes, I am."
You look good for your age.
Now he looks human.
He does. Why don't you make a perception check?
Yeah, I think you said he looked like an old bearded human.
Mm-hmm.
Perception, just one.
21.
Ooh. Who else is... Okay, Russell is.
19.
14.
Okay. Korek, your keen eyes are the only ones that seem to notice that this is kind of a lame description, but do you know how in like the Santa Claus or in other kids type movies where they have Santa's elves and their cheeks kind of sparkle a little bit? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay. Yeah.
You notice just ever so slightly, you see this a little bit of that sparkle on his face. Just when the light catches his face just right from a torch or something like that, there's just a little bit of sparkle, but nobody else notices this. You just see this, and it catches your eye. And you just barely notice it. Yep.
But it's, for me, I mean, I wouldn't, I'm assuming that it's some sort of illusion, but my character probably wouldn't know much about that type of stuff. So,
how long is a millennium? 1,000 years?
1,000 years.
1,000?
Okay, and what's the word for 100? Century.
Century.
Okay.
Century.
I'm gonna retcon that. Not millennia, just because I'm thinking of the timeline in my head. He would have said centuries. I've not seen one of your kind in many centuries. I'm assuming you all still have the same reaction to that.
Yeah, Istar still would have been like, yeah, you're old, but you look good.
Yeah. Now you would know that grand elves and sylvan elves, for that matter, they tend to live somewhere between 300 to 500 years sometimes. So it wouldn't be out of the question if this guy were an ancient elf that he would have but he doesn't appear to be an elf at all. He's, by all reckoning, a human. And
now I know that orcs are rare, but they're still around on Istera. I mean, other than the island, that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So where have you been for these centuries if you haven't seen an orc?
He failed his perception check.
He says, he kind of looks around at everybody who's staring at him, and he kind of smiles and laughs to himself a little bit, and he says, well, perhaps here and now isn't the best time for a conversation such as this. Why don't we get our affairs in order, and we can meet in somewhere else that might be a little bit more appropriate for, I don't know, a private conversation?
Okay.
Istar looks around. Yeah, sure.
When he says that, Daniel and Sir Remshel both they almost stand straight up at attention to him. And he walks over to them and he'll exchange words with them that you don't hear immediately. If you want to try to scooch close and eavesdrop, then you can. And then that's just going to be another perception test for whoever wants to lean in close.
Try that.
Yeah, okay.
What the hell?
20.
Okay.
Nope, 13.
Yeah,
I'm going to pick that up.
Yeah, Ishtar, you miss most of it, but you hear the old man say, what would he say? He would say it's nice to see I'm still thought of, is what you catch.
Oh, okay.
And
Istar just kind of.
I want to shift at this point now. We're that's all happened. That brief conversation has happened, and Tarask, you finish up getting ready and everything. So we'll shift back over to you after you situate yourself. What's Tarask going to do next? Well, nice thing. You notice, well, I'll wait till if Tarask is going to come up on deck or not.
Actually, I think Korak would have probably wondered where Tarask was during this whole thing, because he wouldn't believe that Tarask would have sat out a battle. And I don't think he would, well, he doesn't sleep. So I think when the old man goes to talk to Daniel and that, he'll head downstairs towards Tarask's cabin.
Okay, you go down and you see him finishing.
Yeah, I think he would only maybe get like halfway, and you'd see Tarask kind of coming down like the hallway, and he looks wiped, like someone who just ran like a marathon the afternoon before, like he's barely holding himself up.
Were there ones that got below deck?
One's no, I was I just woke.
You just woke up?
You could say that.
You don't sleep.
Exactly.
Really?
I was.
Okay.
We need to get everyone. I may have done something terrible.
Ishtar makes one of his the alleviate condition.
Is Ishtar there?
Not yet. You're right now. You're kind of
Oh,
in the
that's right.
hallway.
Yeah, I'm not
whatever.
there. Never mind.
Yep. But you're thinking that.
I would probably.
That's why.
I
Okay,
probably
if Ishtar
would've
sees him
approached-
and he's like visibly shaken, he would get one of his alleviate condition joints ready and like say, "Here, I think you need this."
Yeah. Oh, what were you about to say, Russell?
I was going to say I'd probably, if I'm able to, I would probably approach Daniel and just ask him quietly, who is this guy?
Yeah, you find the opportunity as he and Sir Remshel, the old man in the blue scale robe, and Sir Remshel kind of walk side by side towards actually where Korak just went to go down into the quarters area, and you find this opportunity to catch Daniel, and you ask him this question, and he looks at you. He almost looks pale, like he's about to collapse.
Like he's seeing a ghost?
Kind of, yeah. And he'll kind of swallow a little bit, and he almost stutters. He's like, yeah, and then he just walks. He can't find words to speak right now.
I am at that notion. I am staying right with him because I want to figure out who this person is.
Yeah, so as the group of you, so the crew and the guards and everything, they'll get back to, they're going to start trying to fixing some damage on the ship, but what you notice is up top, the Soul Storm, you start to see the sun come through some of the dark clouds, or no, not the sun, it's nighttime. You see the moon start to break through some of the dark clouds, and it slows until finally it just dissipates and disperses. And the Soul Storm just kind of goes away. And it happens rather quickly. And as you guys are headed down into the quarters area, you run into Tarask and Korak, who are coming back out towards the deck of the ship. And Tarask, you see this old man, and the last thing he had said to you was, "Until we meet again." And so now here you are again, seeing him, and he seems to be walking with Sir Remshel, and he looks at you two, and he looks at Tarask, and Tarask, do you have the dragon with you, or did you leave that in the room?
I think I left him in the room. I wouldn't even be carrying like the dragon. Like if the dragon followed, that would be up to you, I'd say, because I wouldn't have called him or put him on my shoulder. I was too weak to even barely walk myself.
All right, yeah, and he'll the old man will say, kind of looks at you, but then as quickly as he looks at you, he's looking down around you. He says, "Where is my little friend?" And then he looks back up to you again.
In my cabin, sleeping it off. We've both had an adventure.
He says, "Have you?" And then he'll stride past you, not too quickly. Stride might be the wrong word. He'll meander past you into your room and come walking out with the dragon kind of around his neck. The dragon's gotten to the point where it's about a shoulder to shoulder length, and so its head could be right here, and its tail, the end of its tail would be like right over here, and so it's gotten fairly large as opposed to it being this big. It's gotten quite a bit bigger, and so he'll put it on his shoulder and carry it, and he'll be kind of petting it, and he'll stop, and then he'll have a look of surprise on his face as he looks to everybody. I mean, it's all four of you, Daniel and Sir Remshel. You're all here in the hallway, and you're all just staring at him and he looks at you, and then he's like, "I don't know where I'm going."
The look on Dane's face is more of very cautious concern because he knows what his mission. He knows what his mission is, and here he sees somebody that's not a member of his party, being very friendly to the dragon.
He sees the concern on your face, and he'll walk up to you. He's not gonna put his hand on your shoulder or anything like that, but he'll kind of come up to you and he says, "Your concern serves you well. Where can we go to talk?" And he asks this to Daniel, and Daniel says, "You come this way." And he'll lead all of you to his room, which, with all of you in there, starts to feel a little cramped, a little personal. It gets warm quick. And yeah, as you're walking...
Even with our icy dragon friend?
What's that?
I said even with our icy dragon friend in there with us?
Yes. And as you're walking, you notice the smell of the ship is a little bit different, whereas underneath down in here, it's always been that dry, comfortable wood smell. Even wood smoke would sometimes perforate the hallways from the kitchen. It smells damp. It smells musty and gross, and there are indeed drips coming from the ceiling above you from the damage that the ship has sustained. And you can hear people fervently up top working on repairing and talking about, batten this down and get that rope, so on and so forth. I just saw all kinds of chaos going on up there, and you all squeeze into Daniel's room and sit down. And the old man finds a comfortable chair, and he takes his time sitting down. He's like... And he kind of sets his staff up against something, and he brings the dragon down onto his lap and just starts petting it. And he'll kind of take you all in and say, I'm sure you have many questions, but I have a question first. What is the name of this fine vessel?
Is the Anchored Fortune.
It says, a name that serves it well. Interesting. In all my years, I've never seen a boat take to the air. And yet, at the slightest sign of wind and rain, take so much damage. Interesting. No matter.
That was a little more than wind and rain there.
Yes, that was no average storm.
He says, but I've seen worse.
That's because you're old.
And he looks at you, he's like...
It may be worse yet.
He leans in and takes a more serious look, and you have his attention.
The lady, I had to free her to save you.
He says, I know.
I hope I did not choose wrong.
He says, I know.
What do you mean you know?
He says, I was watching. The veil is mine to watch.
It starts like, so you were up there on deck and you were watching him? Is that what you're saying?
He pretends like you didn't even
like
say anything.
Ishtar has a very confused look on his face now.
He doesn't even look at you. He's focused in on Tarask, and he says, the veil is mine to watch. In fact, the only reason I found our little friend here that he's petting is because she entered into the spirit realm, and I was able to locate her. Such a thing should not be possible for a dragon so young, but she must have great feelings for the lot of you. In order to do this would require an act of pure instinct on her part, and I'd say she has earned her rest, and you've certainly earned her admiration. And she looks at all of you.
But the lady, was it not a mistake to let her out?
He says, well, I can't be certain. And he kind of leans back now, and he says, I cannot be certain. The child that you unshackled was not the lady herself, but who she used to be. Alas, much is shrouded in mystery, for there is a shroud that I cannot pierce, even with my great magic. I am incapable of piercing this shroud, which concerns me deeply. If it weren't for our little friend here, I might not have found you, and you would have been doomed.
Ishtar points to Dragon and says, "You're a good luck charm now."
She's just kind of shivering, not paying much attention to anything other than the caressing.
Tarask is a little bit shocked. He is looking around to see if there's anything to sit down on. He's got, that nice 3 HP, and he could really take a load off.
As you sit, he says, I believe introductions are in order. My name is Mumaru. Or at least that's how you pronounce it in your tongue. And who are each of you?
I am Ishtar.
He nods.
I am correct, the Spearbearer.
I bow my traditional manner. They call me Dane.
He says, but that's not your true name. Is it, Gareth?
And Tarask from the couch kind of lifts his hands up and says, Tarask, and kind of lets his hand fall. He's not used to being this tired.
He says, well, and I've already spoken with Daniel and Sir Remshel.
I look to him and I say, what do you know of true names?
He kind of tilts his head, and then he smiles and he chuckles a little bit. He says, true names. I was there when the concept of true names was invented, my friend. A name is a powerful thing indeed. But no matter. He says, and he looks at about all of you, and he says, we have been laying dormant for quite some many years. And I'm concerned because I fear that the prophecy I spoke of all those years ago may be coming to fruition. And with this shroud covering the mysteries behind the Lady Naladri, I and my brother and sister are incapable of affecting much change in the circumstances. But perhaps you.
Yeah.
He kind of loses himself in thought.
Out with it, man.
Daniel kind of says, great, Mumaru, what could we possibly do that you could not do? And Mumaru says, he kind of leans back up again, and he says, many, many years we've been hiding. We've obscured ourselves from existence because since the tribal wars, we've not had the strength to affect change in the physical realm. So my brother and sister have been living their lives out in obscurity, where I've been hidden but present, watching the tides rise and fall, watching from the veil, from the spirit realm, for it is mine to watch. And it has only become recently, it's only happened recently that a shroud has covered my vision in the veil, and that can only mean one thing. That someone is trying to fulfill the prophecy of the Black Dragon. And this person is very powerful indeed. Since we cannot affect change in the physical realm, it would take... And nothing can be done in the spiritual realm of the matter. It would fall upon other powerful humans or denizens of Istera to take on the task of saving themselves.
Could I make a logic history check to see if I'm aware of this?
Aware of what exactly?
Would this be a logic?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, do we know about this prophecy of the Black Dragon?
Yes, Daniel's told you about it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's told you about it. Basically,
I guess maybe part of me is trying to think of the trying to recognize Mamaru from historical teaching.
That you can make a logic history or logic religion.
Okay, my history's better, so 66. Okay. 12, 17, 20, 23.
Okay, so your history as a lore master and your books and all of this kind of stuff, you're able to piece together the syllables that form this, because if you remember, he said, at least that's how I'm referred to in your tongue. You can ascertain, and the realization hits you like a brick when you think about it. If he is who he says he is, then this would indeed be the great blue dragon of O.L.D, born from the white dragon at the creation of the world, or not at creation, but pretty close thereafter.
So it could be millennia.
Could be what? What was that, Tony?
It could be millennia and not just centuries.
Well, I said that because, because
seeing an orc.
Yeah, seeing an orc, right, because it hasn't been that long since the tribal wars.
Okay.
So go ahead, Dane.
So when he's referring to his brother and sister, he's referring to the red and the green dragon.
Yep, you could ascertain that as well.
Okay. So I'll look him square in the eye and say, so the red and green dragon are hidden?
And he looks at you and he nods. He says, yes, we've had to go in hiding. Against what many might think, we are not immortal. We are created beings just like you. We live a long time, and indeed our time is coming to an end soon. And I think that this is the reason why somebody is attempting to fulfill this prophecy that was given to me. He says, after the tribal wars, we were so injured from the power that we had given, the blood that we shed for the people of Istera. They turned against us and they attacked us for more power. They knew that our blood had the power in it. And we were severely injured and we had to escape. And it was at that point that we vowed to never again meddle in the affairs of the denizens of Istera. Or at least not until... Well, he stops himself. He says, or at least we wouldn't. And then he kind of looks down at the blue dragon and then he says, my replacement has finally come.
Huh.
Your replacement.
He says, yes.
So now, this is more retro. Like, this the prophecy of the Black Dragon. Is that like This isn't Ishtar actually speaking. This is more me.
Mhm.
Was that like all like end of the world, like Ragnarok type
Sort of.
prophecy?
Sort of yes, sort of no. It's a vaguely spoken prophecy, and to the best that you can recall of Daniel describing it, it was essentially stated that a black dragon would arise in the absence of the three, the red, green, and blue dragons, and would usher in an age of despair befitting the people of Istera. And basically, the gist of it was that the people of Istera were going to reap what they sowed, and that they were going to get what was coming to them for all of their, their sins and all of that kind of stuff. This would happen, and
So would have ushered in like a dark age, probably.
yeah, harsh judgment. Yeah, the worst of depravity in the hearts of free-willed creatures, essentially, would take hold across the land.
Now, out of character, the people that came out and the group that was trying to come out and attack us previously, were they? I'm trying to remember what they were wearing for the previous time.
They were
The golems. The weird golems.
The oppressors from the city of Lane.
Yeah, the oppressors.
Or are you talking about the dragon's hand?
Dragon's hand, yeah.
Okay, now what about them?
I was trying to remember the name of that group so I could.
Yeah, they tried to steal the egg.
Want to ask? Yeah.
Do you ask him of the dragon's hand?
Yeah, I asked him. Yeah. I asked him of the dragon's hand and what he knows of them.
When you mention it, he says, he kind of smiles and tilts his head, and he says, "The dragon's hand?" Says half laughing. He says, it must be a ruse. If there was an organization commissioned by the great dragons themselves, certainly we would know of it. You must understand, I've not been around for many hundreds of years.
Well, there could be somebody who, but I was gonna say there could be somebody that's seemingly acting upon your behalf, or maybe acting on the behalf of the Black Dragon.
He says, in all my years' experience, you creatures act on your own behalf.
Yeah.
Especially humans.
Yeah. Ishtar's kind of like, yeah.
He says in this moment of silence, unless there was anything Korak wanted to ask or say at this moment.
No, he's just taking it all in, trying to understand how a blue dragon is standing in front of us as a human?
Well, you've seen the little blue dragon transform itself into the little firefly.
Yeah.
So you could maybe make the logical connection, maybe not, that as the dragon grows bigger, it will be capable of bigger transformations and whatnot. So he will say, well, if indeed the time has come for our replacements to take their place, then we, or you, rather, must act quickly. There must be 2 other eggs. Now, the eggs were given to the Order of the White Flame for protection. Yours is not the only cell, I don't know how else you would say it, spot where the organization exists. There exists many other, clandestine spots across Istera where the White Flame exists in small numbers. He says, their locations are unknown even to me, and I fear that if the eggs have indeed hatched, they've hatched under less than ideal circumstances. Certainly this little lady has found herself most fortunate to find herself in your company.
It's a lady? Question mark.
He says, he looks down at the dragon and he says, if it wants to be. We're kind of, he says, honestly, we're kind of asexual.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Istera just laughs at that.
He says, but what I am concerned about is how there is somebody behind the scenes. And he turns back over to you, Tarask, and he says, your encounter with your mother in this dream world, in the spirit world.
So just for the record, that's the first time any of them has ever heard that.
Yeah, and he says it nonchalantly. He says it like, he doesn't care.
We have no idea what happened either, so.
Yeah, exactly.
We just hear mother and we're like, Mom, what?
And he says,
What?
this interaction you had with her, it's impossible for me to tell you the meaning of it or the implications of it. However, I can tell you that when I saw this little one, and he looks down at he gestures to the dragon, in the room with you and that little girl, I sensed good in her. In fact, I sensed only good in her. He says, you're kind of a mix. And honestly, that's to be expected. And he says, but her, I sensed only good. Now, beyond that, beyond the room that grinds the souls, I cannot pierce the veil. And this concerns me deeply, for I am the great blue dragon, and the veil is mine to watch. And yet, somebody here, a creature on Istera, has managed to block me from seeing behind the shroud that they've created. I do not know what this could mean, other than there are more forces at work than the Lady Naladri.
I know what it means. It means more work for us.
He says, well, I cannot do it through the spirit realm. Therefore, nobody can. However, in the physical realm, you yet may be able to find out the identity of this mysterious puppet master, as it were.
So we have to find some more eggs and find this puppet master.
He says, I will continue searching for the eggs myself for now. However, keep your ears and eyes peeled for any signs of grandiose claims. If a dragon has hatched and is not in proper care, it will act as any other lizard creature its size will act. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be taken care of. It needs to be cared for. It's through its service to the surface dwellers of this world that it defines itself. If that makes sense.
Mr. You see him just kind of nodding.
And then he says, he adds one more thing. He says, one more thing. I am convinced that whoever is behind the scenes would most certainly like to either kill the dragons that come from those eggs, and perhaps use their blood for power. Now, I can assume that the same person who is creating this veil is the same one who is attempting to fulfill the prophecy of the Black Dragon. This is all very interesting. The lives of those dragons are of paramount importance. He says if he or she were to get a hold of them and eliminate them, I fear even the three of us, me, my brother and sister, would not be powerful enough to take on the full power of whoever this person could be. We are old. We are weakening. Our time has come. But you're my wild cards. And Tarask is like falling half asleep, and Ishtar's smoking a joint. Korak's just sitting there trying to understand, yeah. And Dane's just like... So it's like this misfit band of...
Dane's pretty much taken his Oriental seated position and is just kind of half listening, half meditating over what's going on.
Yeah. He says, he notices your lack of enthusiasm, like, to take all this on. You're like, that means more work for us. And he says, unless you have something I don't know about, unless you are able to access magic powerful enough to pierce the shroud and look behind the curtain, see who this person could be, I see no other way.
I have some divination ability, but I don't think I know I don't have it to do it if you are able to do it. You're a much more powerful creature than me.
Why don't you all make logic history tests?
Yeah.
So logic.
Tony, you're smiling.
Logic history, you said?
4.
He
doesn't even remember what he ate for breakfast.
Okay. Let the master do his work.
6 for me.
23.
Ooh. Good lord, that's a whole bunch of terrible rolls except for Dane. Dane, as soon as he mentions, unless you have something or some other way of piercing the veil, or piercing the shroud, then I see no other way. Now here comes the real kink. I was going to say, if anyone else had discovered, had rolled high enough, you would have remembered that you're not sure of its power or of its implications, but you have the book that you were given by Marask from the Blue Dragon Temple. And he said, ask it any one question and it will answer it for you and then disappear. But I don't know if Dane knows that you guys have that book, because I don't know if you ever told him or not.
Ishtar wasn't there for that, so
Nope.
So he wouldn't know.
I believe me and Korak agreed not to.
Let me roll a history test for Sir Remshul, because he would know about the book.
He would.
I forgot all about the book.
And you're not remembering it right now either. not with a 4.
As did I.
Logic. So. Okay, he gets a 27.
Could have been worse. I could have said. Okay.
Wow, that was
I
really
could have
good.
said, let the master do his work, and then I rolled 3 6 1s.
Yeah, so Sir Remshul says the only object we have that could be of any help is a book we got from the temple that I was damned in for centuries. And then that now jogs your memory, Korak and Tarask, that you guys do have this book. You don't know what good it's going to do, but... And the Mamaru will say, let me see this book.
Okay.
You guys have it, not me.
Who had the book? Did you have it, Teras?
I believe you kept it, but I'm not.
I think Korak.
Sure.
Korak, you kept it tucked away. Yep.
Okay. All right, I'll pull out the book and hand it over.
Yeah, when you pull, it's like buried at the bottom of your sack, and you're like searching for it. You know, you take out like a throwing star. You take out like a knit stuffy that like a little boy or girl gave you from a village, and you're like do, and then you're like, oh yeah, here it is. And it's in pristine condition. It looks like it hasn't been touched. Well, because it hasn't. So you pull it out, and do you hand it over to him?
Sure.
Yeah, he'll take it and he'll say, well, it's not the thickest tome I've ever read. He opens it and it's blank. He says, where did you get this book again? And Sir Remshul will say, he'll describe the circumstances under which you guys got the book, and he says, interesting. So this was a gift given to you from a spirit, the spirit of Marask. I remember Marask very well. He's a great student, good learner. He says, if this was given to you by him, and I didn't give him the book, I can only assume that his spirit obtained this gift by the favor of the goddess Adrian herself. This is quite interesting. And he kind of just mulls it over a little bit, and he says, well, I leave it to you. I am not here to meddle in your affairs as far as, saving your lives is, you're welcome. But I'll leave it to you. You can attempt to ask the book this question. Go ahead, Tarask.
Just at that moment, as he says that, Tarask, who vividly remembers cranking a soul stone in another plane of existence in order to stop this bad things from happening, is kind of like, he's super sleepy, but as he says, you're welcome for saving you, he's kind of like, what? This guy.
Yeah, he says, I jest. You surface dwellers are capable in your own right. Trust me, I've seen the things that you're capable of doing. However, never forget that the power that you tap into comes from my veins. And when he says that, his eyes turn reptilian for just a moment. You almost don't even notice it. And he turns back to everybody else and he says, I leave it to you. You can attempt to ask the book this question, if it indeed is this type of magical item that you say it is, and risk it being incapable of answering your question and being wasted. However, this could make your job inordinately easier.
Sure, let's ask the book a question.
I'm too tired for these brain busters. I say do it.
We just have to make sure we ask it in the right way.
Well, as soon as you said it could make life easier, Istera was like, yes, let's do that.
So we're trying to find out who is behind the obscuring of the veil.
Yes, you're also trying to figure out, and you're hoping that it's the same person who is attempting to fulfill the prophecy of the Black Dragon. So you could ask it in either way.
Okay. So you asked the prophecy way.
Now, are one of you going to ask it, or
think-
are you going to leave it to Mamaro to ask?
How about we leave it to the powerful dragon to ask?
Yeah, agreed.
Istera normally likes to
And
talk, but in this case, this guy might be better at it.
And I would think it'd be more important to find out who's behind the trying to fulfill the prophecy over finding out who's trying to conceal the veil. That's my opinion, though.
He says, then it's decided. And he'll set the book closed on his lap, and he'll close his eyes, and he'll say, Book of great power, gifted from the goddess Adrian herself. Answer this question. Who is the person attempting to fulfill the prophecy of the Black Dragon? And he opens his eyes and he watches the book, and the book glows for a moment, and it kind of hovers up off of his lap, and it's surrounded in this gold luminescence for just a moment, and then it slowly fades away and gently lays back down onto his lap. And he kind of looks at it cockeyed, says, in all my years, I've never seen such a thing. I've collected many powerful artifacts over my years of existence, and never have I handled a gift from the goddess herself. Unless you count my brother and sister. And he says, well, here goes nothing. And he'll open the book. And when he sees what's in there, he'll lean back a little bit. And he'll start kind of looking up. It's almost like Christmas morning when you make your kids wait because you have to make coffee. I got to get my slippers on. I got to take the dogs out. And I got to get breakfast ready, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he kind of mulls it over and he says, this makes sense. In some twisted way, this makes sense. And he'll turn the book over and hand it to Daniel, who looks at it, reads it, and then like his eyes go frozen for a moment, and he just kind of hands it off to the next person next to him. who would be Korak.
Okay, so I read it.
And all it says is Lord Files of Haywood. Then you can pass it on to the next person to read if you so choose.
Okay, yes.
I remember him. Okay.
Yes, and you all.
He was the douche. He was the douche in the court.
Yeah, the douche that helped topple the gigantic skeleton that was about to destroy Nala.
Yeah, he was the guy we saved.
Oh, I'm thinking of the okay. Okay, I'm thinking of the other guy then. So he was the guy. Oh, he was the caster. Okay.
This could
Yeah,
get interesting.
that guy.
Didn't his carriage have a mark on it?
Of his city, yes. His city's
Oh,
emblem was
okay,
just the
alright.
hand clasping a purple orb.
Okay, all right.
So was that just a setup then?
The Mumaru will say, well, I think I've my purpose here is fulfilled. I have retrieved who I am to bring up as my replacement. And he gestures down to the blue dragon and he says, I am glad that the mystery of who is behind all of this has been revealed to you. However, I fear that your journey ahead will be quite perilous indeed.
Yeah. We can't just go back, throw the book that says, Big Blue Dragon said you were guilty.
Yeah, no, and in fact, when everyone is satisfied with what is written in the book, so I'll give Dane and Tarask a chance. You look at it. Do you react in any particular way? Going to Dane.
Now my thought goes: is he also the one who possesses my master's ring?
Do you ask this, or do you just think it?
I'm thinking it for the moment.
Okay. And Tarask.
I don't know if he would. I don't know if the Great Blue Dragon would know such an answer. He might. Actually, that's what I'll say. I say my master was a member of the White Flame. Could this person have his ring after he killed him?
He says, it's certainly possible. However, you had mentioned some foolish organization called the Dragon's Hand. I would assume it would be just as likely as a group like that could be responsible for an act of that nature. And then, Tarask, do you have any particular reaction to the name in the book, or do you just pass it on?
Tarask, well, he might need some help. He looks at the name, and his kind of brow kind of ruffles, and he looks over to, let's say, Ishtar.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of arcs his eyebrows in that look of, who's that?
Ishtar says, that's the guy at Nala who came in a carriage and cast a big spell that helped us win that fight. And then, see, I got out of character. I got that mixed up with another character, but Ishtar was saying, then in the court, I believe he supported our mission for this too.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
And
Yeah, because the guy I was thinking of was the one who didn't. That I got those two characters mixed up.
And Tarask kind of hears that and just kind of, humans. And then he looks up again at Ishtar and goes, no offense.
Ishtar just not taken.
Dane notices that you don't look at him and say that.
Yeah, one of these days, Dane is just gonna like tweak and be like, "I'm tired of it."
No, actually, what he's going to do. Remember the scene in the Avengers between the Hulk and Thor?
Oh.
Of course.
So, yeah, once that's settled, and everybody's satisfied, the book, just kind of bursts into flame, and it burns into dust and ash. Once its mission is completed, once its purpose is served, the book returns to nothingness. Well, ashes.
So we need to get actual proof of this, that he's the one behind it.
Well, we're on our way back to Nulla. I don't know if he'll be there.
Do we really need proof?
I don't think we can walk in there, point our finger at him and say you're guilty, and anyone would take us serious.
Couldn't we just dispense justice ourselves?
He says in a chaotic, evil way. Dialogue option, chaotic, evil. Yes. Or it'd be lawful evil, actually. Your own form of justice.
It says right here on Wikipedia, chaotic neutral.
Okay.
Would in this instance say, why do we not dispense justice? I'm just reading straight from it says it right here.
No, chaotic neutral is to kind of do whatever you want.
I'm sorry, actually I meant chaotic good.
Chaotic good is like a Han Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty close to Tarask's.
By assassinating this guy. That's what we got to do. But more in character. He trusts us. We'll see him again. We'll be close.
He says, if you've met him, he already knows who you are. This person, this being, is someone who has been around since the tribal wars. He's been waiting. I don't know how he still lives. He's clearly a person of immense power. I would tread carefully in how you manage this.
I would agree with you on the immense power part, considering the fact that he did help us take down a gigantic skeleton.
We had it fine.
He will stand up.
I said he helped. I didn't say he finished it off.
Yeah, he'll stand up and he'll put the dragon back on his neck, and he says, "It is time for me to leave. I'll be watching you through the veil, and I will. I'm taking this little one with me. If she is to learn how to take my place, she must be trained. And I will also be searching for the other eggs." And he turns to Daniel and he says, "Should you come upon the other eggs, or if they've hatched, the other dragons, all you need to do is step into the veil, and I will find you. And I will come to you and retrieve them. For now, I must inform my brother and sister of the goings-on. They'll be unaware of what's happening. They didn't seem to care when I gave the prophecy either."
Been a good word for us.
Agreed.
He says, "I fear they have no love left for you surface dwellers."
There are those that... Tarask always goes, humans. Isteran goes, dragons.
I'll look at him and say, let them know there are still those of us who do believe in in your power and want to make sure that it is maintained.
He puts his hand on your shoulder now. It feels frail. And he says, I know. He looks you in the eyes and he nods. He says, I know. And he'll begin making his way out of the room. Unless anybody stops him.
Teres just leans over in that kind of same moment and says to Ishtar, you're supposed to say no offense.
He gives you a thumbs up. He goes, I might have meant offense. He said they have no love for us, so...
He'll walk out of the room and begin making his way back up to the deck of the ship. It's your choice to follow if you do.
Korak will follow.
Might as well, yeah.
No. Follow, just make sure that somebody doesn't try to attack him.
When you all get back up to the deck of the ship, he goes to the back where he had landed previously. And there's a bit more space back there and everything. And he'll turn to all of you again and he'll say, when we took a vow to never meddle in surface dwellers' affairs again, that was contingent on certain circumstances. Be that as it may, I must leave you now as I found you. Now I will grant you the gift of the beasts that I dispatched being gone. However, I fear you'll be needing something I've left for you in the room that we were just in. And with that, he he'll take the little baby dragon and he just chucks it up really high. Further than it seems physically possible for a man his size. And right before your eyes, he spins around and his cloak seems to he's got this like dragon scale robe, and it seems to elongate magically, and in an instant as he turns around and everything, he turns into the gigantic great blue dragon of O.L.D. Right before everybody. And when he does, he basically comes up right underneath the little blue dragon who he had thrown up, and it kind of lands right there on his neck. And I'll share a picture a little bit later when I find one of how I see this great blue dragon looking. But suffice to say, it's every bit of magnificent as you would possibly imagine it to be. And in this setting, people don't fight dragons. They don't talk to dragons. At least they don't now. They were a myth. They were gods in their own right, and they've faded into obscurity, but they've always been in the back of everybody's minds over the years. And here it is, Mumaru, the great blue dragon, in front of you.
So now he's in like full blown dragon form. Yeah,
full blown, and he says now in a much deeper voice. He says, "Take heed the words I've said. Find Lord Files of Haywood. And don't forget the gift I've left for you in your room. You'll need it." And he jumps off the back of the ship and lifts his wings, and he kind of takes off. And then when after like 2 wing flaps, you hear a support from it was the same support that was about to be chopped by that spiritual Soul Devourer. It goes, and you hear screams and shouts and grab that, and You hear all the guards like they're trying to hold things down. So in this moment, you guys can you've got time to react. It isn't a death sentence or anything, but yeah, according to him, he's leaving the way he came, and
Okay. How close is it?
at the other end of the ship.
Okay. Well, I will take off running.
Okay.
Same here.
What is your speed?
My speed is 8.
Mine is 6.
I'm at 5.
My speed is normally 8, but I mean, I feel like he's exhausted, so
Yeah, we'll
I'm
half
not
that.
sure. So 4.
Yeah. Now, Rory, you had mentioned last time that you had kind of already gone through the legwork of mapping out the size of a ship, and we determined that the width-wise, it'd be about 30 to 40 to 50 feet wide at the center. Did you ever get a length on that?
I do. Hold on one second.
Because Googling length of a fantasy boat doesn't find me much.
You
Look up
probably get
fantasy boats. I looked
20,000
I figure
answers.
it's about.
up the
That's what I said.
Buccaneers.
Okay.
I'm gonna
boats.
think like a schooner.
Look up like Spelljammer stuff because I had the flying ships and that was D&D.
Yep, I'm finding some of it. I'm trying to find dimensions now. Let's see. Not giving me dimensions. There.
Oh, here we go, a hammer ship.
Is that keel length? Is that what that's referred to? Keel length?
I mean,
Yes, I believe so.
keel length the keel
I mean,
runs
here's,
front.
you can see, here's a bunch of different examples. And it's got dimensions for them all.
Okay, so just find one that is probably like close to 120, 150 feet, maybe. I'm not sure. Does that look about right there, Caleb, for what you have up?
Let me pull up this one. Keel length 250.
Well, that's huge. So keel length is the length of the boat then.
Okay, here's keel length 199. Keel length 199, beam length 29, and that's a ship that kind of looks like that.
Okay, so yeah, keel length sounds about what I'm looking for. So we're gonna say it's 150 feet. Korak, you're sprinting, so you've got
Oh, here we go.
8 move.
There we go. This one's 145. It says beam length was 35.
Perfect.
So 145 long, 35 wide.
Awesome sauce. So
The great bombard. That's what it is, the great bombard.
So if you're sprinting, I'm going to count that as 2 move actions. That's 16 move times 5 is 80 feet.
80.
So you're able to make it about halfway there.
All right.
Until the next cinematic moment happens. So you're running there. You've got Ishtar and Dane. Tarask, are you following? Or are you sitting that one out?
Ishtar's not that fast. Ishtar's not that fast, so he can help you if need be. My speed's 5 normal, so.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. I would be coming along at 4 speed. So if Ishtar is faster than that, and he wanted to try to help me,
And my full speed's 5, so I'm not going much faster than you.
Yeah, I don't think he'd really actually be able to help me much because it would just decrease you to 4. So
Korak will yell back, "Get the gift." I don't know what it is, but
and then you hear the captain who's at the helm, and he's caught eyes with Dane really quick. He says, "You get up here!"
Yeah. I'll get up there.
And he gestures for you to help him steer this thing because the wind shear of it right now, the ship is like it's starting to tilt sideways, and he's trying to keep the rudder straight so that you guys can stay afloat and not capsize, basically.
Yeah, he's going to love my help with my 2d6 strength.
Oh gosh. He just pointed at the first one he saw. So yeah, make your strength roll. Korak yells, "Get the gas!" as he runs forward. Does that change Ishtar and Tarask's metric at all? Or are you guys still running alongside with Korak? Well, behind him.
Looks like I'm using a luck die.
I mean, if I'm a little faster, I can run. I'll run down and get it, or. Uh-oh. Dane's that back.
4?
A 2 and 2 1s.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like pulling on it, and then his grip gets loose, and then it becomes very apparent how little you were helping because it just throws you over it and slams you into the ground on the other side. Can
I at least do an agility check to see if I can keep myself up to my feet?
Yes, except subtract 1d6 because this is very difficult. Don't worry, it was only 2d damage. 2 damage. So.
I just slammed to the ground. I just got slammed to the ground. I rolled 2 1s. These dice are going to jail.
a Dane-shaped crater in the ship. So, yes, Ishtar.
It's almost cartoonish the way it worked too.
Yeah, exactly. Ishtar, you're following, or you're going down.
I just figured since I'm a little faster than Tarask at the moment, I would be able to get the gift probably a little quicker.
Okay. So Ishtar's thinking about it. Tarask?
I think once Tarask got going in that direction, he'd probably keep going in that direction.
All right, towards where Korak was going, right?
Yeah, correct.
All right, so if he sees Tarask keep going, Ishtar will turn and go down, back down, and go back to the room.
All right, Tarask, you make it about 40 feet across the dock of the ship. Ishtar, you get down into the room and you can see there are 6 very large and very heavy winter jackets, winter coats.
Okay. Not the help I was thinking.
Unless there's something here we didn't.
All right, he puts one on.
It's nice. It's really nice. It's a primo jacket. You're feeling good, looking good. Korak, you run another 80 or 70 or so feet, and you get to where there's one guy who's jumping up for one of the ropes, trying to grab it, and there's another guy who's got a hold of one.
Basically, this is sort of going to be a sort of the cinematic effect. So as he's coming up and running, I'm assuming I have to go up some steps.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, he's going to hit the top step and he's going to leap from that towards the rope and try to grab it.
Okay.
So
That's some panache.
his jump is actually 28 feet horizontally and 8 feet vertically, and so that is going to be an acrobatics check and agility. And that is 29.
Please hold.
Okay.
Cinematic processing.
Buffering.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. Okay. You leap up off the stair, and the first thing that you notice is the rope that you're jumping for is going. It's whipping around and everything, and while you're in midair, it goes past you and whips a guard in the back, and it knocks him unconscious. I mean, these are thick ropes.
Right.
And for a moment, you're jumping, and you're going, and you're just gonna fly off the ship. You're literally gonna fly off the ship until the rope comes back around and slams into your chest. It deals you some pretty hefty damage, given the rate that it was sailing at. 12, 13, 14 points of bludgeoning damage into the chest, and but you grasp hold of it, and you are now flying. You're getting whipped around by this rope. You're definitely weighing it down, but you're not on the ground yet.
Okay.
And you're kind of, the boat is not underneath you for some moments. You're like, and you're swinging, and you're trying to bring it down, and it's a scene. You're like, watch out! Swinging across the deck. In fact, Ishtar, not Ishtar, Tarask, make an agility roll.
Ishtar's downstairs. Well, that's going on Ishtar's downstairs and Jack and go like,
oh, look at this pocket, and oh man, there's a knife, and no, there's not really a knife. Tarask, make an agility test for me, Tarask. If you've got acrobatics or athletics, you can add that. And if you are talking, we can't hear you now.
No, I wasn't. I was just checking to see if I had acrobatics or athletics. I have dodging, but
no, dodging will work. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, cool. That is going to be that's miserable for such a hard one. That's an 18.
Okay. You are just barely able to duck out of the way of Korak coming flying past you as he attempts to stop himself on the deck of the ship with this rope.
Yeah.
So yeah, is there anything you want to do when you see him coming at the last moment?
I feel like I'm just exhausted. I'm barely paying attention, and I turn and I almost have to squint to see it, and then at the last second I'm like, oh, I know what that is, and I get out of the way, and I'm just kind of, oh, what is going on today?
Yeah, and then he swings past you, and then he's over the side of the ship, and then he's coming back down. And Korak, I want you to make another agility acrobatics check to land and stabilize yourself on the deck of the ship.
Okay.
In the meantime,
when I finally come around,
yeah,
I'm going to...
I was gonna say you can get back up now, Dane.
I'm actually going to try to use. I'm going to try to use my quarterstaff to leverage against the wheel.
Okay.
So essentially, try to get wedged in there to hold it. So I'll let you determine what I need to do for that.
All right. And Rory, you were about to ask something?
Is Korak like right near me? Like, since I saw him flying right past me, is he still right near me, or did he continue to fly like a little bit?
He continued to fly past you, and now he's coming back down to land on the deck. Hopefully.
I only rolled an 18 that time, so.
Okay.
Nice.
It's enough, but only just barely. You slam into the deck rather forcefully, and oh, nasty rolls! Another 14 points of damage. I even took a die away that time. When you try to stabilize yourself onto the deck, you land into the side of the ship, and that breaks your fall a little bit, and then you're able to get to your feet.
Okay.
And yeah, Tarask,
now
he's right next to you now. Essentially, he's within like 15 feet of you. And then
Okay, yeah, so I would okay, yeah, it's past my I don't know if I don't think we're in any type of order here, but if I can reach over and try to help him.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, I wanted to get your action in first, and we're not in any kind of turn order. I want to get your action in first, and then I'm going to shift back over to Ishtar and Dane. So, what are you going to do when he's there? You said you're going to reach in and help. That's just going to be a strength check.
Okay, yeah, I'll try to grab on to him.
If you have anything you think might help, I could be convinced of a skill.
Honestly, with what I have, I can't think of a single thing that would really apply.
All right.
You don't have athletics?
No. Closest thing would be like swords. Literally. There's just nothing else.
Okay.
I don't think he wants me to reach in with a sword.
No.
Ha
I'm here to assist you. That is an 11.
Okay. Yes, you are able to help, but it begins to lift you up off of your feet as well. Korak, make a strength check to pull down on this rope. Another guard is going to come and try to help you pull down on it. So we've got an 11.
I'm going to use a luck die on this. My strength isn't the greatest. So that's 18.
So 11 and 18 is 29. The guard is going to get in on this as well. Or one of the crew members hops in. And he's going to add 11 to it. So that's 40.
40.
Yes, which is just enough to get this thing, and so between the three of you giving it everything you've got, and the other guys on the other rope giving it all they've got, you're able to start to pull it down. And the crew member, he says, "We need more people. Get something to anchor it down with." And then we'll shift over to Ishtar, who is trying on his jacket.
Yeah, I sure probably went down, kind of like saw jackets and was like, huh? Put one on, didn't like feel anything special. Probably we did a pose or two. And then it was like, whatever, take some off. I would have taken it off and then ran back upstairs. So I probably would have like come up when they started like pulling the rope down.
Yeah, and yeah, you hear them shouting for support. Something to anchor this down with.
Do I see anything that can anchor it?
Well, the situation is that
my little blade's not going to do it.
Yeah, the situation is that the part of the ship that this was anchored to still has an end of the woven rope and chain there. It still has that, but it's been severed from that. So connecting it back to that would require you being able to like tie it or something like that. So that's not really feasible. Other than that, you guys would need to pull down on it far enough to reach the hook large metal hook that is built into the frame of the ship that this attached to. You'd have to be able to pull it down far enough to insert those ropes into there and hopefully tie it temporarily to get it anchored in there. You can make a perception test to see if you see any other way to do it.
Twenty-six perception.
You think that you would be able to wrap it around the center one. It wouldn't be nearly as much support as it was before, but it would stay there at least until you could get it fixed. And then it would be up to the captain and whoever's navigating the ship to adjust for the offset until it was.
This would be more like a. So this would be more like a temporary fix.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. So Ishtar, I guess what I have to like run up and then tie it to that, or not tie it, like wrap it around, pretty much, right?
You are. If you have this idea and you think it's a good one, then you can go up and inform them of what you think should happen. Because right now they're just putting everything they got into. They need somebody to tell them what to do with it. Yeah.
All right. So Ishtar will run. I start yelling, and I'm pointing to that center mast you were talking about. I like it. He's pointing to it, yelling like, "Connected to that! Connected to that!"
Yeah. So and they'll start to.
I'll use my projection.
Oh yeah, cool. Make a performance check. The left support
21.
attaches to the
21.
Middle support. Yeah. So yeah, you project this and it catches everybody's attention there, and you're able to tell them exactly.
I'm like running. Yeah, I'm like running at them, pointing at this thing, like connected.
Yeah. Yep. And the guys on the other rope, they begin to shimmy their way with the rope over to the center. And Korak and Tarask, you two know what's going on, and I'm assuming you are going to go along with it as well.
Yes.
Okay. That's going to be one more strength check to get it over there. While you do that, hold on to those numbers. Don't tell them to me yet. Dane, you get up, and the captain has caught the wheel. But he's really struggling. It looks like one of his arms is broken, and he's just got it like right there, and he's putting all of his weight into it, and he's getting crushed underneath the weight of it. He can't keep it balanced.
Okay. I'm going to try to get my quarterstaff into the wheel and use it as a lever to counter. So I'm assuming that I treat this like an attack.
It's not. No. It's sitting still. You're not going to have any issue sticking it where you want to stick it.
Okay, so I thought it was still spinning.
No, he's caught it, but he's getting crushed underneath it.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to try to position my quarterstaff in where I can actually use it as a lever so I'm using that to essentially free his arm, so to speak, but I'll be able to hold it on one way, and then he can kind of help manage the other way. So,
right. I'm just looking.
What do I need to? What am I rolling for this?
Hold on. Processing.
Processing.
Staff. What kind of staff is it?
Will Robinson.
That's quarterstaff, exceptional quality.
Okay. How large is it?
Its size is large.
Okay. It's got a soak of 5.
I'm talking about something probably about 6 feet long.
Yeah, it's got a soak of 5 and health of 25. Okay, so when you stick it in there, make a.
See if the staff breaks.
Yeah, when you stick it in there, make a strength check.
Yes, I realize the risk I'm making.
Make a.
Okay.
strength check to
But do I
and now
gain-
because yes, you do gain 2d6 from the leverage that you gain from using the staff to push up on it.
Okay, and I'm still going to use an extra luck die just to give us some extra cushion. That's a lot better than it was before. 12, 15, 17.
Yes, you begin to push it, and with the captain's help, you're able to start to move it. 5, 10, 17. You hear the wood of your staff begin to just start to
Okay.
from the pressure that's being exerted on it. It took 17 points of damage, and it soaked 5 of it. So it took 12 out of 25. So it's at 13
Oh, jeez.
health. One more round of this, and
Okay.
it will likely snap. So unless you find some other implement to do this, to get it propped up, then your staff is not long for this world. But it does. You're able to, and the captain, and that does take some of the pressure off the staff. It won't take as much damage next turn if you leave it in there. And
Okay.
and you can feel the ship start to level.
Do I see anything that I could use to replace my quarterstaff?
Make a perception check. And then while you do that, I want to go back to Tarask and Korak, Tarask and Korak for your strength checks.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna add a luck dice.
Uh, 13 on that perception check.
Yeah, as you look around, you see a few things. One thing that you notice is that there's a lot of shit that's gotten shifted, and a lot of barrels and stuff like that. One of the barrels has, not barrels, but one of the crates has smashed up against the side of the wall about 10, 15 feet away. And you can see inside of it are horseshoes.
Okay.
And that's something you could certainly stick in there to keep the wheel from moving. You'd have to take it out to continue to crank it, but then you could use the horseshoe to stop it from moving any further. So what are those strength checks, you guys?
Okay.
21.
Korak used a luck die and got 23.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you're good because the guard or the crew member only got a 3. So between just the two of you, Korak, you just find some extra gusto. Everything. Maybe you're pissed because you took a little bit of damage from the side of the ship and the rope, and you find it in yourself to pull this out. Tarask, you find an extra foothold, and you get a little bit of extra leverage as you're pulling this along, and you find a good spot to step, and you're able to really put your weight into pulling this around, and you begin to circle it around the center support. Let me roll for the other crew members. There's about 4 of the other crew members who are holding down this other rope. And they each get 3d6. So somebody help me keep track. You know what? I'll just do it on this. 4 times 3, that's going to be 12d6. 12d6. They got exactly a 40, which is what they needed. So they are struggling, but they come by and they begin to walk it around. Well, they'll leave it to Ishtar. Ishtar, how do you direct them to weave this rope around?
Does Ishtar know anything? Can I use the escape artist?
I'll let you add 1d6 for it.
Alright. What else would I be rolling for that? I'm not sure what.
Logic.
Oh, okay. I think I'll use a luck die. My logic is not that good.
All of you feel the airship throughout this whole thing has been picking up a lot of speed.
Oh. I got a 20 on the logic rule.
Great. Yeah, you think that if you you'll get a lot more support if you do it in a way that basically ties a double knot. It's kind of hard to coordinate between two groups of guys, but your roll was high enough that you're able to direct them in how to do it in such a way to give it.
So Istera pretty much runs up and like is yelling like, "Put that down there! Rope around, pull!" Like however you tie this giant double knot with this rope, Istera's like doing the hand motions.
Yeah, perfect. Let me just check something really quick. Yeah, it is pitch black outside. The moon is lighting the deck of the ship. Again, that smell of musty wood is in your nose, and it begins to rain, and it's a cold rain. Very shortly after it begins to rain, it turns to sleet, and makes the deck slippery, and makes this whole ordeal much more difficult.
Lovely.
Yes, so we're gonna go back over to not Tarask, Dane. What's Dane doing? Now you're getting pelted with little pieces of sleet.
I'm getting I want to see if I can get to the horseshoes and bring them back to wedge in there so we can try to do some counter on this.
Okay, you know that if you walk away from your staff, it will, there'll be no more support for it, and it'll be up to the captain to hold it by himself again.
Okay, I will ask him to get the horseshoes.
Very brave. Make another strength check as he steps away from the wheel to go grab a horseshoe.
And you said it's plus 2d6?
Yep.
For the leverage?
Yep.
Okay. I'm using my last luck die. Oh, that was a great roll. 24.
Very nice. You crank it a little bit further. Wind is picking up. You're starting to get hit in the face and it's starting to hurt. Your sense of it is that you are moving really fast in the ship right now, faster than you've ever sailed normally. And your staff takes another. Let's see. Hold on.
There, now I think I'm back. All right, quick. Can you guys hear me? I lost everything for.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, so your staff takes another 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 damage minus 5 is 9. So it's at 4.
It's almost gone.
Yeah, so you see it start to, and it begins to splinter. But then just in time, before it finally gives way, the captain comes running in with a horseshoe and he gets it in there. He's got like 3 or 4 of them, and he's just shoving them in the different spokes of the wheel, and he sets one up.
Okay.
So it's like it propped in between a block of wood on the ground and the steering wheel, and he's got these things. It looks pretty ghetto. Yeah, he's just got it shoved in there, and you're able to pull your staff out before it breaks. However, it is at 4 HP, so make a note of that. Your staff is currently damaged. Yeah.
So yeah, I will be putting some. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be putting some time in to repair that.
Okay.
Get somebody to repair it for me.
So it isn't long before basically you come to the conclusion that you guys are going to crash. So what happens is, what you've done with your checks is you've prolonged this enough to where you are over the Trollclaw Mountains now. So if you remember, the city of Towers is pretty far north, and then there's the Blighted Vale, and then in the center of all that is the Trollclaw Mountains. With the speed that you've gathered from falling and from angling the ship this way, you've made it pretty far into the Trollclaw Mountains, and much further than you would have otherwise if nothing had been done. And the captain is going to go around you. Basically, there's almost a moment of semi-calm on the ship, despite the fact that you guys are careening out of the sky, coming closer and closer to the mountains, and you've pretty much accepted that this is going to happen. You can't do enough in time to save the ship and to sail back peacefully. And he's going around making sure things are battened down, making sure people are safe, and prepared for whatever they are going to run into. And then he's going to take his position up on the wheel, which is now stabilized for the most part. He can kind of careen the ship in directions that he chooses. Does anybody go ahead?
I was going to try to get an idea of where everyone was, because I remember him saying, I do remember the dragon saying there was stuff left for us down below decks. So trying to figure out if we have time to head down there.
Yeah, you would have time to get down there and get your coats on. And at this point, you would be pretty cold.
Fortunately, my leather armor does have add that heat enchantment to it, so I've got a little warmth, but I'll take more.
Yes, you guys are in your respective positions, right? And you're kind of bracing for this impact that you know is going to happen. And we kind of have a moment where the captain is up on deck, and he's doing his best to steer this ship to a mountaintop that is flat and not crash it into a mountain, so he can set you guys down with as little damage as possible. And then as he's coming in, he finds a nice spot where he thinks he's going to be able to bring the ship in and crash land it, but in the best possible way that he can. And as he comes down, the ship starts to, you feel the bottom of the ship start to against the bottom into some snow and ice, and you feel pieces of board and everything getting ripped from the bottom. You've got to be moving at like 70 miles an hour forward, and just shearing wood off. And he's got a hold of a lever that is controlling the altitude and everything, and so then he starts to push it down, and the ship starts to grind harder and harder into the ground. And then all at once he says, "Oh shit." And the ship goes careening off the edge of the mountain and down into a crevasse, and it's headed straight for a mountain wall. And moments before it just slams into this mountain wall, you feel the ship you feel it, something up from underneath it go, and it jolts the whole ship, and you feel it start to get lifted up, and it might actually make some of you sick from the change in like G-force, and it brings you up and up. And if you listen closely, you can hear and when we kind of zoom out and we can see, or if you guys are close to windows, you can look out and you see gigantic blue dragon wings flapping on the side and Mumaru has come back and saved the ship from an inevitable crash landing and is currently has the ship on his back as he flies, carrying the ship a little further. And he carries it out of the crevice and carries it for quite a while. And as soon as you guys are stable back in the air and everything again, you have a moment where you can kind of come up on deck and see what the hell's going on. And when you do, he's there flying, and you can see his head up ahead a little bit. And well, maybe you can't see his head because he's not.
You see the wings, though, pretty much, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Sir Remshel will shout down to him, and he says, "I thought you weren't helping us anymore." And you hear the dragon voice come back up, and he says, "I liked you. I changed my mind." And
it's good you did.
Yeah. And he'll carry you all for quite a while. And when we meet next time, we will find ourselves not out of the troll claws yet. However, Mumaru will have set you down safely, and he will bid you all farewell again, telling you to make good use of the jackets that he gave you, and he'll take off out of there, and I'll put up a picture of where you guys are at in the Trollclaw Mountains and how far you have to go before you get to Nala. He brought you as close as he could without being seen by any other denizens or mountain dwellers in Nala, because Nala is situated right at the bottom of the Trollclaw Mountains, and there's certain to be some folk who live out in the hills and whatnot. So he would have left you a good 60 or so miles out from Nala that you'll have to travel by foot, or hoof, as it were. Hoof it.
Horse. Yeah.
Well, that's actually
That's their horses may survive.
Taras never went back out to the deck. He immediately went to the horses to make sure they were okay, following the small bumps.
That's a great question. If you want to roll an animal handling check, that would be great, because they're freaking the shit out right now. It's going to be charisma animal handling.
Correct will also go down as well.
Okay.
Yeah, please do, because I don't have animal handling.
Yeah.
Stroke the donkey.
That is a 15 for me.
17.
You both find it very difficult to calm them down. Korak, you have a little bit more luck, only because Bloodfire is so attuned to you. Tarask, you're trying to focus more on the animals as a whole, and they are just so spooked, and it's very difficult to get them calmed down. You have some success. But you, Wager, you're going to have to... there's going to need to be a little bit of time, at least, before they are ready to strike out of the ship and be useful as animals.
Yep.
You know, they're going to need to be calmed down. And that is where we will end tonight, at the edge of the Trollclaw Mountains.